We also have then Pete Hegseth, who is Trump's nomination to be the defense secretary, which arguably is the most important appointment a president can make because they have a close to $1 trillion budget. So I just want you to realize how many financial interests and stakes there are in the Defense Department. That wheel of just stays greased with tens and hundreds of billions of dollars going out the door into the pockets of Raytheon and General Dynamic and Boeing. Lloyd Austin, the current defense secretary, was not just approved overwhelmingly, but they actually rewrote the law for him. They gave him a waiver. You're not supposed to have a recent member of active duty military run the Pentagon. It's supposed to be a civilian run Pentagon. And there's a rule that says if you've been an active duty military member for the last 5 years, you can't get appointed to run the Defense Department unless you get a waiver. Trump selected General Mattis to run the Pentagon, and he needed a waiver because he had just been in active duty. And when Congress gave Trump the waiver, they wanted General Mattis there because they felt like he would impede Trump. He would defend the military and the bipartisan military and war policy. He would keep all the deep pockets that fund them, the lobbyists who fund them, very happy, which is exactly what he did. They did a waiver, and they said, we're never doing a waiver again. It's very important that we keep civilian control of the Pentagon. But then as soon as Biden chose Lloyd Austin, the Congress did exactly what they promised they would never do again, which is they gave him a waiver. Why? Because he was coming from the board of Raytheon. He was part of the military-industrial complex. Of course, Lloyd Austin was going to continue all the splurging and spending and dogma that runs the Pentagon. And so everybody was very happy with Lloyd Austin. Now you have Pete Hegseth, who I have to say, I have a lot of serious disagreements with him. Based on policy. Probably the thing I find most disturbing about Pete Hegseth is that there were members of the military who recklessly and deliberately murdered Iraqi civilians or Iraqi detainees. Just shot old women in the head, shot children in the head, really just out of some sort of psychosis. And there were others who just stabbed detainees to death for no reason. And they got court-martialed. They were found guilty by the military, which is a very hard thing to do in war for a soldier to be found guilty. And Pete Hegseth was a longtime defender of these people. He campaigned for their pardon. He convinced Trump to pardon these war criminals. And he was a big defender of almost every war and terror policy that turned out to be a disaster. But he's morphed and changed over time, like a lot of these picks have. And so I'm not saying that I'm comfortable with his ideology, but no one minds that ideology. If anything, that's what makes it more likely that he's going to get confirmed. But what they really hate about Pete Hegseth is that he has been a harsh critic of the dogma that runs the Pentagon, of a lot of the woke policies that have shaped the Pentagon. He believes that women shouldn't be in combat. But he also believes that the Pentagon has been extremely corrupt in how it spent its $1 trillion. They can't pass an audit. They just failed their 6th audit in a row. So much money goes out the door, $800 for hammers, all those things that aren't apocryphal but are real. And there's probably nothing people in the Senate and the House care more about than making sure that money keeps flowing to these gigantic arms dealers who fund their campaigns, whose lobbyists run their offices. And Pete Hegseth is a threat to that because he's not emerging from the Pentagon bureaucracy. And just like with Tulsi Gabbard, the objection to Pete Hegseth has nothing to do with his actual views, but instead, out of nowhere, appeared this allegation, very similar to when Brett Kavanaugh was nominated for the Supreme Court, that he actually raped a woman in 2017. Here you see, it's all over the media now. Here in New York Magazine from today, what we know about the sexual assault allegations against Pete Hegseth. And here's what they say, quote, "In the days since his nomination, it's emerged that the conservative TV host was accused of sexual assault many years prior. Though Trump appears to be standing by his nomination, the news added another bump to Hegseth's already rocky path to confirmation. The incident allegedly took place during the 2017 California Federation of Republican Women Conference in Monterey, where Hegseth was in attendance. Per the Washington Post, the transition team received a 4-page memo detailing an alleged assault by Hegseth of a 30-year-old female staffer of a conservative organization at the hotel, written by a friend of the victim in question. A report was completed days later on October 12th. No charges were filed, and the woman's statement has not been made public. Now, I was on Megyn Kelly's show earlier today for about an hour and a half where we discussed this case at length. Megyn, of course, is a outspoken defender of women who are victimized by sexual harassment and sexual assault. She was, very famously, when she was on Fox News, as were other female journalists. So she's not somebody who just rushes to defend men and dismiss the allegations of women, and yet she went through, both as a lawyer and a journalist and as an expert in this field, a lot of the reasons to have serious doubts about what we know so far about these allegations. My view, my bottom line view, is the same one that applies to Matt Gaetz' situation, which is that if a government body or if a police officer investigates an allegation of criminal conduct and they decide there's no evidence to even charge the person, let alone obtain a conviction, which is what happened in Pete Hegseth's case. The woman who disappeared from her husband and kids who were staying at the hotel was on video walking very affectionately with Pete Hegseth back to his room. She woke up. She claimed she didn't remember anything, claimed she was raped the next morning to her husband as a reason she disappeared. They went to the hospital. They did a rape test, a rape kit, but the police found nothing to justify even further investigating what happened. And so they closed the case and no charges were brought. She then sued for money, and he did pay her money. But if you're a public figure, especially at the height of the Me Too movement, which is when this case was brought, a lot of people pay off accusers, even if they've done nothing wrong, because they know that the mere allegation, even if false, will permanently destroy their reputation and their careers. He would have almost certainly been fired by Fox, never have any opportunity again. So the fact that he paid her in order, as a way of not ensuring that allegation did not come public, doesn't in any way, to me, signify guilt. And it's just, again, every time at the most opportune moment, these allegations emerge and appear. And this is a serious crime that he's being accused of, which is rape. And the fact that the police investigated in real time and found no evidence to justify the criminal charging, as the same thing happened with Matt Gaetz. The Biden Justice Department spent 1.5 years or 2 years leaking about Matt Gaetz, over and over, destroying his reputation, and then ultimately finding that they don't have evidence sufficient to charge him and indict him, let alone convict him. I'm not saying you can't make judgments about people if they're not charged criminally, but it's pretty significant that they weren't. And clearly the reason why these kinds of accusations are being launched against these people's character and past is not because people care about these allegations. They're being exploited against the very people who are most frightening to the DC establishment. Thanks for watching this clip from System Update, our live show that airs every Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on Rumble. You can catch the full nightly shows live or view the backlog of episodes for free on our Rumble page. You can also find full episodes the morning after they air across all major podcasting platforms, including Spotify and Apple. All the information you need is linked below. We hope to see you there.